The past 2 years have been marked by much contradictory reporting on the world situation. It was desperate, and it was good. It was worsening, and it was improving. Pessimists put forth bleak assessments, fully documented. Optimists, on the other hand, reported hopeful statistics, also factually based. The world food situation is so complex that those who were predisposed to view it favorably or unfavorably could sort out those pieces of evidence that supported the desired position, whether chosen deliberately or unknowingly. Small wonder that the average citizen was confused. Much confusion comes from the human tendency to observe the unusual and to generalize from it. My question is, what do the competent researchers agree upon? In a world more inclined toward conflict than consensus, this question is seldom asked. But on controversial issues, it is the necessary question. It must be asked, and the responsible public official must listen for the answer. Then he must hold to it. Else he will become a weather vane, shifting every time the wind changes. Not that there ever will be complete agreement, but on most issues there will be enough agreement to point in the right direction. In statistics, if you have one standard deviation on either side of the average, you take in about 2/3 of the cases. What I shall try to do is give you a view of the world food situation that would probably receive agreement in its essential elements from perhaps 2/3 of the competent research people who have studied the subject. Virtually all of the knowledgeable people who have studied the present food situation agree that it is precarious. It is precarious because the 1974 crop was poor in much of the world because food stocks have been depleted before the poor 1974 harvest, and because bad weather had persisted so long in certain troubled spots, particularly the area bordering the Sahara Desert. The difficulties are worst in South Asia and in parts of Africa. More than for many years, the world must have a good crop in the upcoming season. But the situation is much better, or at least far less bad, than it was generally perceived to be last fall, when the world first realized how poor the 1974 crop had been. At the time of the World Food Conference in Rome, the appraisal was at its bleakest stage. Since then, a number of things have happened, all helpful to hungry people. Rains have come up in the drought-parched Sahara periphery and to much of South Asia. Fertilizer, which had been very high-priced, has become more abundant and less expensive. Governments, alarmed about food shortages, have increased their investments in research, education, and capital investment. So, while the present food situation remains precarious, marked improvement has occurred since the Rome meeting. On that fact, practically all knowledgeable people agree. What about the weather? Are we on the threshold of a series of drought years? The state of meteorological science does not now permit a yes or no answer to these questions. Presently, we can neither substantiate nor refute the frequently heard predictions of adverse weather ahead. Someday, perhaps, we will be able to, when we run our newly acquired weather data through our new computers, testing new weather theories. But at present, this is not possible. When it comes to predicting the weather, all of the upcoming growing season, the Farmer's Almanac is still about as good as anything. The best estimate of next year's weather is still the average weather of the past decade or so. In the long run, looking into the 21st century, unless the rate of population growth is checked, there is no solution to the world food problem. Projected at recent rates, the population chart runs off the page. The numbers become not only unimaginable, but inconceivable. Indeed, unless there is a reduction in the rate of population growth, we will run into many other problems. Overcrowding, we will run into overcrowding and the frictions that result therefrom, civil uprisings, depletion of natural resources, and degradation of the environment. It may indeed be that these other hazards will become the critical ones, disciplining our numbers while food supplies are still adequate.